have the pleasure today of being your MC for the evening. And to begin the program, I'd like to hand it over to Angelo Sandoval, Ella Baker, Senior Organizer and Legal Advocate, who will lead us in a land acknowledgement. Angelo, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I also wanted to acknowledge that I am a Navajo and Apache. Before we can talk about justice, power, and colonization, we must acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Ramaytush Ohlone. Oakland, Berkeley, Hayward, and the East Bay sit in the territory of Huichin, part of the stolen land of the Chochenyo Muwekma Ohlone. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle ongoing legacies of settler colonialism and to recognize the hundreds of Indigenous nations who continue to resist, live, and uphold their sacred relations across their lands. We acknowledge the land and labor of the Ohlone people, whose connection to this land we remember, and whose presence, past, present, and future we respect. We give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, learn, and pray here. Let us take a moment of silence to pay respects to their elders and all the Ohlone people, past and present. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelo. Today's forum has been put together by Urban Peace Movement and the Justice Reinvestment Coalition. A special thanks to our co-sponsors, Oakland Rising, Ella Baker Center, East Bay Law Center, ACLU NorCal, Faith in Action East Bay, Interfaith for Coalition for Justice in Our Jails, and Silicon Valley DBUG. Urban Peace Movement is a youth leadership development organization that works with youth, their families, and broader community to transform the culture and social conditions that lead to criminalization and incarceration. UPM believes that elected officials must play an active role and respond to the mass incarceration of our communities, in particularly the overwhelming incarceration of Black and Brown people. UPM organizes through a healing-centered framework that empowers impacted communities to create a world where everyone has access to their basic needs. We believe that having access to heal, rehabilitate, and transform is a fundamental right. The Justice Reinvestment Coalition is comprised of community-based advocacy and organizing groups committed to creating a fair and just public safety system. Next slide. Next slide. UPM and the Justice Reinvestment Coalition's work is inspired by Dr. Prince White's legacy. Prince was taken from us too soon, but we are grateful for his invaluable contributions to our fight for justice and liberation. I'd like to invite Nicole Lee, UPM's Executive Director, to share a few words.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I just wanted to take a moment for us to remember the legacy of Dr. Prince White. Prince was the Deputy Director of Urban Peace Movement. He worked with us from 2015 through 2018, and he was really the person who helped to spearhead this work. And so 4 years ago, Prince, right around this time of year, helped us to do our first DA candidate forum in 2018. And so we just wanted to take some time to remember him tonight. I'm going to light this candle in honor of Prince and, just to remember that this work really is in his legacy, and we do this work and dedicate it to him tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, for sharing those thoughtful words. I would now like to invite us to hold 30 seconds of silence to honor Dr. Prince White's legacy. Thank you everyone for holding silence. We have a limited amount of time during today's program, so we would like to invite the public to begin submitting questions for the Q&A section using the Q&A icon at the bottom right option bar on your screen. If you are having issues, I invite you to direct message me or other panelists and let us know that you're having challenges accessing the Q&A icon. Another tip that we'd like to share with you all is that in order to expand your screen, you are able to move the bar that is to the left of the speaker. So in the case that you want to make the speaker size larger or our presentation larger, you are able to control that on your end. Some additional housekeeping guidelines and rules for our event this evening. Candidates are not allowed to have their assistants distribute messages or links in the chat, including fact sheets or political literature during the debate, even if the material relates to the answer the candidate is giving. Candidates have been told beforehand that such literature may be placed in the chat during the closing remarks only. No campaign banners, signs, or other campaign paraphernalia will be allowed in the forum. Candidates will be asked the same question and have the same time to answer. The order of the first question will be determined by the moderators. Given that there are two candidates, the order of the questions will alternate. Time limits on responses will be strictly observed. A timer will be shown on the screen visible to the speakers indicating how much time remains. When the speaker ends, the speaker must end their speech within 10 seconds, and we will be giving an additional 10-second reminder in the chat. The candidates will not interrupt one another and should remain muted when not speaking. Candidates should refrain from personal attacks or charges, and should remain focused on the relevant policy topics. The candidate's closing statement should be significantly related to the matters discussed previously. Candidates will have up to 2 minutes for their closing statements. Candidates are free to speak to the press following the forum. Before I introduce our moderators for this evening, it's important that we all share a common understanding of the role of the district attorney and how their decisions impact our communities. I'd like to pass it over to Danny Thongsey, JRC's coalition coordinator, to walk us through this key information.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Just sorry that it took me a minute. So next slide. So just this a video about the workshop on a district attorney. Can you go to the next slide? Backward. Sorry, you guys. One more. One more. Yeah. Can you play this video? Yeah, go ahead and just stop the video. I don't think it's showing right now. Sorry, you guys.
apologize. Should we be playing the video, Danny?
Yes, go ahead and play the video.
Okay, I think we were having some trouble. It looked like folks were not able to see the screen. I'm going to play it again. Apologies. Give me one moment while I get us reoriented.
Yes, go ahead and play the video.
Give me just 1 second while I get oriented to share the screen again.
The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world.
Oops.
We are addicted to locking people up. Despite having only 5% of the world's population, the US has 25% of the world's prisoners. The land of the free, it seems, is anything but. While we have been building a national consciousness around the causes of mass incarceration, little attention has been paid to one of the system's most powerful actors, prosecutors. A prosecutor, also known as a district attorney, represents the government in criminal proceedings against any person accused of a crime. They are actually referred to as the people because they are supposed to represent the interests of the community. Their job is to seek justice, not convictions. And prosecutors have more power than most of us realize. Prosecutors alone decide whether or not to charge a crime. They get to decide who is prosecuted and who gets a pass. They also decide what crimes to charge you with. This is important because the more serious the charge, the greater the risk a person faces by taking their case to trial. This increased risk puts pressure on a person to give up their rights and take a deal, even if they are innocent. And despite their legal duty to turn over evidence that could prove you are innocent, prosecutors themselves, all in secret, decide when to apply that rule. Given all the discretionary power, prosecutors ultimately determine how the system treats the most vulnerable people in our communities. But the problem is not just the unfair amount of power prosecutors have. The problem is the abuse of that power, which is unfortunately all around us. Investigative reporter Radley Balco explains that one of the most powerful positions in public service, a position that carries with it the authority not only to ruin lives, but in many cases, the power to end them, is one of the positions most shielded from liability and accountability. And he's right. Over 40 years ago, the Supreme Court gave prosecutors absolute immunity, a powerful legal protection that is even greater than the protection the law gives to police officers. Absolute immunity is a big deal, a really big deal. And it means that in our current legal system, who we elect to represent the people becomes even more critical. Here's what you can do. Find out who the elected district attorney is in your jurisdiction. Get to know where they stand on the issues you care about most. Make sure you know what policies and practices are implemented in your name every day. Hold prosecutors accountable with the power of your vote. It's time to ask whether your district attorney is standing up for the needs and values of the communities they serve. So, do prosecutors exercise significant power? Absolutely. But they can only exercise the power that you give them. And that starts with winning an election, which means the most powerful player in our system is really the voter. That's you.
Yeah, Liz, you can go ahead and stop the video. Yep. Yeah, thank you guys for the patient. First of all, we want to thank you. We want to thank the Alameda County Public Defender Office for making this informative video accessible to the public. We hope that this video answers some of your question on what is a district attorney. That they are public servant, an elected official, and holds a lot of power. So in California, there are 58 elected DAs, each representing 58 counties. In Alameda County, our current DA is DA Nancy O'Malley, who took office in 2009, is expected to retire at the end of this year. Next slide. Since we have learned about what the role of the DA is, so what next? Next slide. Well, to make sure that you know that the DA shares your value, you can get to know them and make sure that they know who you, how you feel about important justice and other related issues. Next slide. For additional information about the role of the DA, you can check out prosecutorial accountability by the Alameda County Public Defender on YouTube. You can also check out information on meetyourda.org by the ACLU. And you can go to the Alameda County District Attorney website by clicking www.alcoda.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danny. And thank you everyone for your patience as we navigate through a couple of tech challenges here. If you have any questions about the role of the DA, we also invite you to interact with our chat moderators using the Q&A function. The moderators will be responding to questions throughout our event. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderators. And I'd like to remind everyone to please use the Q&A icon function at the bottom of your screen to submit questions either to the candidates or the planning team. I'd also like to remind you that you have the ability to control the size of your screen. So if you want to see the panelists and the speakers enlarged, you're able to do so using the bar to the left of the speakers. If you'd like to see the presentation slide, you can also shift the size of the presentation with the bar to the left of that screen. And again, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderators this evening. Our moderators are Liz Sook and Veronica Cañas. Liz Sook is the Executive Director of Oakland Rising, and Veronica Cañas is an organizer and advocate with the Urban Peace Movement. Liz and Vero, I now hand it over to you to introduce the district attorney candidates.
Thank you. Sorry, we are navigating all of the tech issues. We are going to introduce the folks that are running for office right now. We have Pamela Price. Excuse me. We have Pamela Price, Terry Wiley, Jimmy Wilson, and Seth Stewart. And we will be moving to having each of the candidates do a DA statement to be able to share their statement. We'll have a timer on the screen, and then you'll have 3 minutes to give your statement. And we will start with Pamela Price. Give me just a minute, Pamela, while I spotlight you. Give me a minute while we navigate that. And we're almost there, y'all. Thank you. There we go. And when the clock starts, you can go ahead and give us your statement, Pamela.
Hi, my name is Pamela Price. I'm running for Alameda County District Attorney because I'm a drum major for justice. I'm a survivor of the Ohio juvenile justice and foster care systems. I'm also a survivor of the Alameda County criminal justice system, and I've dedicated my life to fighting for justice for everyday people and standing in the gap. For 30 years, I've served this community as a civil rights attorney, successfully arguing against racial harassment in the United States Supreme Court and creating new laws to stop sexual assault and sexual harassment, representing victims and survivors of violence, and holding police, corporations, and institutions accountable, and fighting for justice. I've been in this fight since I got arrested in a civil rights demonstration when I was 13 years old. In 1977, I led the fight against gender discrimination when I became the lead plaintiff in the first sexual harassment lawsuit under Title IX. In 2002, I was the California Lawyer of the Year for Employment. And in 2020, I received the Courage to Change distinction from ALC's PAC in New York. I decided to run for district attorney because for too long, district attorneys have forgotten that their mission is to protect public safety by advancing justice. Prosecutors have been at the heart of mass incarceration. They literally drove the bus from the playground to the prisons. My goal is to expand restorative justice programs in this county, to give survivors of trauma and abuse a helping and healing hand, and to hire prosecutors who want to change lives and not destroy them. I believe that the key to public safety is police accountability, stopping gun violence, holding corporations accountable in partnership with the community, and creating fair and restorative justice, criminal justice systems. Public safety requires public trust. I will be a minister of justice who will seek justice in all criminal cases, who will work to prevent crime, and who will serve as a leader in the diverse communities of Alameda County. We must root out the racial disparities that have infected our criminal justice system, break the school to prison pipeline, give everyone a second chance at a first-class life, and create a new culture of transparency, integrity, independence, and equal justice in the DA's office. I am endorsed by our sister Angela Davis, actor Danny Glover, Senator Nina Turner, Pastor J. Alfred Smith, Bishop J.W. Macklin, our sister Kat Brooks, Elect Black Women, the Real Justice PAC, Our Revolution East Bay, ATU Local 192, ILWU Local 10, the Coalition for Police Accountability, Reverend Wanda Johnson, Oscar Grant Sr., Uncle Bobby and Auntie B, and a host of leading civil rights attorneys in this community, of which I am one. Justice with compassion is what we need in Alameda County. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will ask Terry Wiley to give us his opening statement. Can someone, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Terry Wiley. I'm currently the Chief Assistant District Attorney with the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, and I appreciate you having all the candidates here this evening. You know, we have a District Attorney's Office that needs new leadership. It has to be leadership that is about safety and justice. And safety and justice does not have to be a choice of one or the other. You know, I represent balance and experienced leadership in this race. This is why I've been endorsed by the nation's leading civil rights attorneys. John Burris, Benjamin Crump, who represented the family of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery and Dante Wright, and Breonna Taylor, and Lanita Baker, who also represented the family of Breonna Taylor. I've also received the unanimous vote of all 17 police chiefs in Alameda County, because they worked with me. All of the civil rights attorneys and the police chiefs have worked with me over the years. And they know that if we want to make changes to our system, that I'm somebody that they can work with to get some things accomplished. I've also been endorsed by Congressman Eric Swalwell and Supervisor Richard Valle. I've received the most endorsements by the labor unions. I've been endorsed by the building trades. All of the Teamsters unions in Alameda County have endorsed my candidacy. And I think it's because I'm not way over to the left and I'm not way over to the right. I represent the middle, where safety of the community is of primary importance. I know we're talking a lot about mass incarceration that has occurred in the past and changes that we want to see to the system, but we're out there every day. And let me tell you, people are concerned about having a gun stuck in their face, being robbed. They're having their cars broken into, having their homes broken into. There's also a concern about crime. And that requires that we tackle the root causes of crime. We have to look at poverty, mental illness, substance abuse. And we also have to make sure that law enforcement have the resources that they need to do their jobs, but we're going to hold them to a high standard. You know, let me tell you how you end mass incarceration. When I ran our juvenile division between 2013 and 2017, during those 4 years, the incarceration rates of juveniles dropped by 70%. Because I met with the superintendent of Oakland schools and I said, we will no longer take kids that you send into the juvenile, that you want arrested and sent to juvenile hall because they got into a fight after school.
Thank you,
You see,
Terry.
when
Your time is up now.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll pass it to Vero to introduce the next candidate.
Thank you. And the next candidate that we have up next is Seth Stewart.
Go ahead, Seth.
All right, can you hear me okay? Outstanding. So thank you so much, Justice Reinvestment Coalition, for putting this event on. It's critical to understand what happens in the district attorney's office. That video was great. That's exactly the kind of thing we should be talking about. I also want to make sure to mention that we are in a historic moment. Judge Brown Jackson is the first Black woman ever to be nominated to the United States Supreme Court. And those hearings are happening exactly this week, yesterday, today, and hopefully that will end in an incredible result for all of us. The historic nature is not just because she's the first Black woman, it's because it represents fundamental change in our system, that Black lives matter. Here at home, we are also at a critical junction to bring in a different set of values to our DA's office. We will be electing our first Black DA here in Alameda County. That said, we can continue with the status quo, or we can do something different. We have to decide what our values are going to be. As for me and my values, I was raised by a single mother who taught my brother and I the values of service, excellence, and fairness. My progressive values are essential to moving Alameda County forward. I was hired to work as a prosecutor by Kamala Harris, and I worked under George Gascon. These on the ground, in the courtroom experiences give me the perspective and experience necessary to bring change. I'm the only prosecutor who's taught young people about the criminal justice system in a public school setting in an effort to mitigate the school to prison pipeline. I'm the only prosecutor's office also served our country in the United States Air Force on a search and rescue helicopter. As a member of Air Force Rescue, I can tell you the motto is these things we do that others may live. I bring this same level of duty and commitment to this office. I'm the only prosecutor who's actually written laws to help keep our community safe, banning chokeholds and carotid restraints by the Oakland Police Department, and banning ghost gun kits and ghost guns from coming into the city of Oakland. I want to bring all of those things to Alameda County. These laws directly impact the rates of violence in our vulnerable communities. The next thing I want to talk about is policies. And please pay attention to the policies that we talk about here today. I've done the work to make the change happen on the ground. And I'm excited to have this conversation with a number of different organizations that have been doing this for years and decades. And this is an incredible opportunity to engage meaningful discussion about policy. And the solutions, lots of them are right under our noses. They're happening every day. Some of them right here in Alameda County. We need to get out of the status quo silo, and we need to start to invest in changes. For example, ending the death penalty, creating a resentencing unit, prosecuting officers who violate the law, and reforming the juvenile justice system. These are all things that I have in my platform. Please listen to the substantive
Thank
policy.
you, Seth. Your time is now up. Thank you.
Thank you
And
so much.
now we will be moving on to our next candidate, Jimmy Wilson.
First, I'd like to thank all the member organizations for hosting tonight's candidate forum. In January of 2020, I walked into Nancy O'Malley's office and I told her I was running for district attorney. I am not her choice for this job. I'm running because many lives have been destroyed under the failed policies of the current leadership. They are the past. It's time to talk about the future, where safety is a civil right we all can count on. I'm here to reverse the devastation that our community has suffered, to bring back a sense of hope, and to lead us towards a brighter future, a future where everyone in the community can feel safe and respected. The solutions are within our grasp. Titles do not make leaders, action does. A leader is someone who refuses to accept the status quo, someone who motivates people to do better and to be better. I've proven that I'm a leader among my peers, a person who will lead our criminal justice system with ethics, integrity, and compassion. A leader who will do everything in my power to make my community safe for everyone. I'm the only candidate in this race who has spent 17 years in the courtroom, handling some of our county's toughest homicides, sexual assaults, child molestation, and human trafficking cases. When my office failed to hold police officers accountable, I stepped up through my role as an executive board member on the NAACP to create a community policing training program. I've independently investigated multiple officer-involved shootings, and because of my reputation for uncompromising ethics, I was asked to interview judicial candidates for the Alameda County Superior Court. I've worked 5 years encouraging rival gang members to put down their guns through Operation Ceasefire. I've supported domestic violence victims and their children in Oakland's Elizabeth House. I agree with the ACLU that the DA's leadership has failed our community. We must collect data about our work and share it with the public. Train our officers to be guardians and not warriors in the community that they serve. Corroborate with community partners to get guns off the street. Address trauma in our community to end the cycle of violence. Train our prosecutors on responsibility and ethics. Give all victims and survivors a voice. Reimagine how we hold people responsible for committing crimes. We cannot incarcerate our way to public safety. I look forward to leading an office that is creative, with meaningful diversion programs for our youth and first-time offenders. I believe in the power of community, and I look forward to earning your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for all those comments. And now we will be moving on to our short answer questions. And our first question will be for Terry Wiley. For decades now, many people have criticized the revolving door of mass incarceration. Critics say that millions upon millions of dollars have been spent in a system that has not been effective in rehabilitating people, and in most cases has instead caused more harm to families and communities. What are the specific alternatives to incarceration that you will put in place as district attorney, both on the juvenile and adult side?
And just to be very clear before I start the timer for you, Terry, so the order of the candidates' responses to the questions will be Terry, Pamela, Jimmy, and then Seth. And then we'll do a rotation for the next set of questions. So I know that it sounded like that question was just for Terry, but that's for all the candidates. Do the candidates feel they need to have the question repeated one more time, or are we good?
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question. Vero, do you mind repeating it one more time?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
And also, just to reiterate, the time dedicated to each candidate is 2 minutes each to respond to the question. For decades now, many people have criticized the revolving door of mass incarceration. Critics say that millions upon millions of dollars have been spent in a system that has not been effective in rehabilitating people, and in most cases has instead caused more harm to families and communities. What are the specific alternatives to incarceration that you would put in place as district attorney, both on the juvenile and adult side?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. First of all, let me just say that I agree. I think that there has been an absolute over incarceration that has occurred in American society. You know, when I started in the DA's office in 1990, me and Kamala Harris started together. And I tell the story that in about our second year, one of the things that we talked about was how there'd be days when we would sit in court and the only person coming through the side door into the courtroom were all African Americans, and that we could sense and see that there was something wrong with this picture. And now that I've moved up into the administrative part of the office, I feel it is incumbent upon the district attorney's office to take an active role to try and correct some of the over incarcerating that occurred in the 1990s and the first decade of the 2000s. So we created a joint program with the NAACP, the Hayward branch, Mr. Wilson's branch of the NAACP. And we created the expungement program in which we coordinated with the courts and set up, and we had DAs volunteer their time, and we expunged the records of hundreds of people, citizens of Alameda County, who can now go out for the first time and fill out a job application and say, I have no convictions. Those are some of the things that you can do to help correct the over incarcerating that went on previously. On the juvenile level, I began by saying in my opening statement, the incarceration rates of juveniles went down 70% under my leadership and continues to this day. Today, our juvenile division averages about 75 juveniles in custody in the whole juvenile. And the ones that are in custody are there for only the most serious offenses: murder, attempted murder, armed robbery, only the most serious offenses that pose a threat to the community. Thank you.
The next candidate to respond will give to Pamela Price, and then again, Jimmy Wilson, and then Seth Stewart.
As the next district attorney, I will be very intentional and specific about looking for alternatives to incarceration. And I should say that I have a proven record of making a difference where I can, when I can. I will be a voice for the community in this regard because we have been subjected to mass incarceration by the criminal justice system in this county. Before arrest, I will look to adopt programs like the LEAD project in Seattle that's allows police not to bring people to jail, but to bring them to community alternative-based centers. We will have to create the infrastructure for this because it doesn't really exist in Alameda County, but I will be a champion for that, and that the Philadelphia also has a program there. AMP program. It's called the Accelerated Misdemeanor Program. So there are opportunities for us in Alameda County. And I'm not just going to bring something here. I want to be in partnership with the community. So we all will have a voice about what we actually do. I do want to have a mental health assessment team within my office to expedite assessments and placements for those suffering with mental health challenges. And I've committed to work with the families of the seriously mentally ill to help them expedite hospitalization requests. I'm going to prioritize community care and transitional housing opportunities. I'm going to look at the model for Care First for juveniles that's been adopted in Los Angeles. We will work to expand the criteria to allow more people to go through the neighborhood courts that we have, and we're going to look at how they're functioning and improve them, and also establish a system of neighborhood courts that will allow the people in the community to hold us accountable and those who are accused of crime without bringing them into the criminal justice system and trying to incarcerate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy, you're next.
Thank you. My plan is to expand diversion programs throughout the criminal justice system. Right now, the criteria for who gets to get into a diversion program is limited to a certain amount of crimes. And that's especially bad because a lot of times that there are cases that overcharge. So when you overcharge a case, that limits the ability for people to get out of the system. I also want to point out that Mr. Wiley made some comments about the juvenile justice system and how he drove down juvenile population within that system between 2013 and 2017. Well, that decrease did happen, but that decrease did not happen because of something he did. This was a product of police officers stopping bringing in kids for minor offenses and booking them into juvenile hall. There was a report done by the Alameda County Probation Department that points that out, that this didn't have to do with the DA's office. It had more to do with the police officers and what they did. Also, I want to point out that the district attorney's office had a problem of directly filing juveniles into the system, charging them as adults without giving them what we call transfer hearings or fitness hearings. That increased the mass incarcerations of juveniles, and that was done under Mr. Wiley's, while he was the supervisor of the juvenile justice system in Alameda County. So if we're talking about reducing diversion, and especially with juveniles, we have to reimagine what leadership would do. This is what I'm trying to do. I am trying to expand diversion, and also for not just for our juveniles, but for our adult offenders. Thank you.
And our last candidate for this question is Seth Stewart. Go ahead, Seth.
Thanks, everybody. I completely agree with what Jimmy Wilson said about expanding alternative courts and diversion programs. Right now, they are completely underutilized. The ACLU put out a report last year that said over the 55,000 misdemeanors that could have gone to diversion, less than 2,000 people did between 2017 and 2018. And that's just the data that they had because of the incomplete data in the DA's office, which is also something that needs to be fixed. Alternative courts are great. They provide services addressing trauma, mental illness, substance use, and they mitigate the possibility of future violence. They do a great job. With regard to youth and juvenile court, what happens there is also restorative justice works. Diversion works. The Ella Baker Center published a report saying youth of color made up 100% of the people held in Camp Sweeney and 92% held in juvenile hall. If you look at those numbers today, they're still about the same. And again, it's not in the DA's office. You have to go to the probation department to find the information. And it's over 90% are either Black or brown kids. And you have to ask yourself, either something's wrong with the kids or something's wrong with the system. It's obviously the system. What we need to do is expand eligibility to alternative courts, expand access to diversion programs. We also need to make sure they don't get there in the first place. Genesis does a great job of organizing youth to end the school to prison pipeline. And we need to support and expand the Pleasanton Mental Health Response Program, the Hayward Evaluation and Response Team, and the Mobile Assistance and Community Responders of Oakland, MACRO, and other local civilian response interventions to make sure that they don't get there in the first place. Those are all of the things that we need to do, and I'm ready to do them right now as District Attorney of Alameda County. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a reminder to everybody who is watching us on Zoom, you have the ability to change your screen size so that you're not just staring at the clock by using the toggle bar between currently my face and the clock on the left. So just a reminder for that. Reminder, you can drop some questions into the Q&A so that we'll be sure to pick a few of those when we get to the Q&A section. For this portion, I'm going to ask the question, and the order of the candidates will be Pamela, Jimmy, Seth, and Terry. And a reminder, you have 2 minutes to respond to the question. So in Alameda County, 80% of the people in Santa Rita jail are being held pretrial. A few years ago, we became aware of a case of a young man who languished there for nearly 3 years awaiting trial. What steps would you take to reduce or dramatically reduce pretrial incarceration? And Pamela will be our first response.
First and foremost, I need to hire prosecutors who want to change lives and not destroy them. In 2020, I worked with a family whose family member had been incarcerated for 4 years. There was a 5-year enhancement on his sentence. The sentence had been overturned by the Court of Appeal due to prosecutorial misconduct. But we had to fight for months to get this gentleman out of jail because the DA insisted that he wanted to impose a $500,000 money bail requirement before this gentleman could be released. So you have prosecutors that are committed to incarcerating people, even when they've been found to be innocent. And we see that in the statistic that you've just cited to us. That has been the practice of this DA's office. So first, we've got to get rid of money bail in Alameda County. And I will do that as one of my first initiatives as district attorney. I will adopt a race neutral and share with my justice partners a race neutral comprehensive assessment tool by which we can assess someone's the possibility that the person is either a flight risk, which most people are not, let's be real, or a danger to the community, which some people are, but most people are not, because most of the offenses that are charged by the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, as noted in the UPM report and done in conjunction with the ACLU, is that those are low-level offenses that should not have either been charged or could have been diverted out. Again, this is where diversion comes into effect. I will conduct an immediate assessment of the current criteria and the resources available for each alternative court and work to set quantifiable goals to increase the number of people being allowed to go through so we can reduce the time as well as the numbers of people that are caught up in Santa Rita County Jail, and establish a network of community options and accountability so that we can make sure that we are effectively using our resources to protect the community.
Thank you. And I apologize for the clock. I believe I gave you the full 2 minutes, but I apologize. There was some technical difficulty with our slide, but I tried to give you the full 2 minutes, Pamela.
Okay,
I apologize if there was a few seconds cut off. I will now pass it to Jimmy Wilson to respond as well.
My plan is to rebuild the district attorney's office. Right now, our resources aren't putting towards what they should be. And that when people are in custody, when people are fighting for their liberty, the district attorney has to have that in mind where they put their resources. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. In our Dublin branch, there are 2,500 cases that are pending, and there's only 6 DAs handling those cases. 4 of them have less than 5 years of experience. That puts a drain not only on the office, but a drain on the criminal justice system. I will work to put more resources in our DA's office. I will work with our criminal justice partners, meaning our defense attorneys and our public defender's office, to come up with policies and procedures to reduce the amount of incarceration, over-incarceration that's going on currently in the district attorney's office. I will also work with judges to try to break the backlog, because as a DA, we are the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system. We have so much power and so much influence over the courts. And if we really are concerned about people in custody, then we need to come to the table and talk to our criminal justice partners about what we're going to do. I also believe that we need to train our DAs on how to charge cases. What I've seen over my career is that there's overcharging, which causes people to stay in custody longer than they should. So I would put in policies in place to safeguard the liberty of people accused of crimes, because that's really important to the system working fairly, adequately, and equitably. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will pass it to Seth. Let me just don't go anywhere. Don't start yet. Here we go. One more time. I'm going to start the clock again. Go ahead, Seth.
All right. So with regard to reducing dramatically pretrial incarceration, what we're talking about most fundamentally is cash bail. Cash bail has created a two-tier system of justice where if you have money, you get to remain free. If you don't have money, you remain in jail while your case is pending. This is neither fair nor just. As district attorney, I will no longer seek cash bail for individuals who pose no danger to the community, and that's in accordance with California law. We will focus any pretrial diversion efforts on a person's risk to public safety. There is an assessment tool. It's a Compass assessment tool. I've used that as a prosecutor in San Francisco, and I will bring that tool to Alameda County. That's number one. Number two, it's dangerous to be in Santa Rita Jail. There's a consent decree that just was agreed to by the sheriff because of the unconstitutionally poor services there. The Department of Justice produced a report last year based on an investigation that they did that said that the services there are unconstitutional. It's a horrible place to be, and we need to make sure that we improve the services there as much as we can. And finally, number three, let's not send people there in the first place. Again, we know that the Pleasanton Mental Health Response Program works. We know that the Hayward Evaluation and Response Team works. We know that people, when they are having a mental health issue, they can get the services they need as opposed to being sent to Santa Rita Jail. All of those things are things I want to support both inside the criminal justice system and working with our law enforcement partners to make sure that we do not unnecessarily send people to Santa Rita Jail and keep them there when we shouldn't. Thank you so much.
So many buttons, y'all, to get to these, to get to the right folks. I am, excuse me, sorry, just one moment. So I am going to read the next question, and
I think I have to go first. Terry
oh,
Wiley.
I'm so sorry, Terry. How did I do? There's so many buttons and so many things. I apologize. You are correct. Terry, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to address the comment that Jimmy Wilson made. You know, I'm the only candidate in this race that's ever run the juvenile division. And just to show you that he doesn't know what he's talking about, in 2013, when I took over the juvenile division, I went and took a tour, and all I saw were Black kids and brown kids. Then I found out that the Oakland Police Department had shut down the Youth Services Division. So anytime a juvenile is arrested, they go through Youth Services, and Youth Services makes a decision as to whether the juvenile should go to juvenile hall or should be sent home. They closed their Youth Services Division down. So if you were an African-American kid or any kid in Oakland and you got arrested, you were taken to the hall. And we found that that was contributing to the number of kids that were in juvenile hall. I then went and met with the head of their Youth Services Division and said, you better open this Youth Services Division back up or I will go to the press and tell them that you've got it closed down. And they reopened it 2 weeks later. It took the cooperation of the DA's office and probation in order to get those numbers down in terms of the number of kids we were incarcerating. In terms of alternatives to incarceration, we have 17 current active courts that deal exclusively with alternatives to incarceration, from drug diversion, veterans court. We also started the CARES program, which is a mental health facility that we opened up in the Fruitvale, and we're training law enforcement agencies across Alameda County so that if you come into contact with someone who appears to be having a mental breakdown, instead of taking the person to Santa Rita, they take them to the CARES program, where we have a licensed psychologist, we have a lived experience individual, or some call them a peer support specialist. We have clothing and food for the person. They then make an assessment if the person needs longer term care. And because we're a
Thank
county
you, Terry. Your
facility,
time
it
is
gives them
up.
access to a bed.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank
Your
you.
time is up. And now we will move on to the next question. And this this question, again, you have 2 minutes to respond, and the order of the responses will be Pamela, Jimmy, Seth, and then Terry. And here's the question. So the first.
Sorry, Liz, I think that's the wrong order. We just went in that order.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You are correct. I'm on the wrong question. Thank you. So the question order is Jimmy, Seth, Terry, Pamela. Thank you, Vero, for correcting me. Jimmy, Seth, Terry, Pamela. And here's the question. There are 6,000 to 8,000 Alameda residents in state prison, Alameda County residents in state prisons. What steps would you take to implement resentencing laws like AB 2942, AB 124, SB 1393, SB 775, SB 483, SB 1540, among others, in Alameda County? So the first person to go will be Jimmy Wilson, and let me restart the clock for you. And go ahead and begin.
Thank you. I believe that when it comes to resentencing, that we need to have a department to review those cases to find out if we have been egregious in how we sentence defendants in the past. I also believe that when we look at what's going on right now, we are going through a period of reimagining how we do criminal justice. We have to understand that using sentencing enhancement, overusing sentencing enhancements have caused mass incarceration. I have no problem looking at what we've done in the past and reviewing those cases and possibly recalling them. I have participated in right now in looking at cases and having those and doing hearings in front of judges and having those judges review the facts and the law and coming to conclusions of whether or not we need to recall that sentence. Even in cases that I've tried, I've recently had a murder case that I tried, and we had that case recalled, and we recalled that sentence because we used the enhancement incorrectly. So I believe that we should review cases to make sure that we're doing our jobs the right way, that we should allow petitions to be filed so we can be aware of any times that we were wrong, changes in the law. I welcome changes in sentencing laws. I welcome changes in how we sentence. I believe that if we're going to have a just society, that everything should be on the table. I also believe that we should reimagine how we deal with people who have been incarcerated. Like I've recently been talking to a gentleman and trying to do restorative justice program with him while he's in prison. So I believe that everything should be on the table and that we should think about criminal justice in a different way.
And now we'll go to Seth. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned a couple of things. Terry Wiley said he took a tour of juvenile hall and all he saw was black and brown kids. If you take a tour of juvenile hall now, all you'll see is black and brown kids. If you think that's okay and the system is fine and the status quo is working for you, then you should vote for him. He also said that if you let him tell, the system is working just fine about all of the cases that are going to alternative courts. When the ACLU and Urban Peace Movement report said that of the 55,000 cases that could have gone, only 2,000 went. So the system needs to change. The status quo needs to change. With regard to this issue, there are tools existing today right under our noses in Alameda County that we're not using. We're failing to use these tools. I am the only candidate that is explicitly saying we need a resentencing unit. We need a resentencing unit. That unit can be a part of the resentencing pilot program that Governor Gavin Newsom funded. And I also want to say thank you to the Ella Baker Center, to the ACLU, and for the people to giving us this tool. This is an incredibly important, powerful tool. And Alameda County, which is where this idea started, should have it. You know where else it happens? Where it's not happening in Alameda County? It's happening in Riverside. It's happening in Yolo County. It's happening all over the state in 9 different counties, and we don't use it here. If Riverside can do it, if Yolo County can do it, why aren't we doing it? We need to do it now. I want to make sure that as a policy, this is what I'm talking about, policy differences. This is where the candidates differ. I have a resentencing unit I want to implement immediately using money from the state that's already allocated for this exact purpose. So we need to make sure we consider resentencing here in Alameda County, and this tool is critical for us to be able to be successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Terry Wiley. I just want to remind our candidates to we want to keep it fair and cordial. And I know that folks aren't calling folks out or anything, calling you out, each other out by name in terms of being out of pocket, but just make sure that you're keeping it peaceful, because that's where we're at. So I'll give you the stage, Terry. Thank you.
Well, I do want to say that, you know, Seth Stewart, his comments that he just made, see, that shows his inexperience, and that shows that, and I'll tell you how it shows his inexperience. You know, when you look at the juvenile, and when I took over juvenile in 2013, they were averaging about 300 juveniles in custody. And we're now down to the juveniles that have only committed the most serious offenses. Now, does that mean that because the kid is African-American or Hispanic and they've committed a murder and they're charged with murder, we should let them out so that we don't have Black kids in custody? We've only got the most serious kids in custody in juvenile. He also said he wants to create a new unit that considers previous convictions. Well, we have a unit. We have 3 of our top attorneys in the DA's office that make up our post-conviction unit that analyzes all of the cases that have previously come through the system. And it does not matter whether the DA agrees or not for those cases to be considered. It's the law of California. And so you have no choice but to have lawyers looking at those cases and considering those cases. And we have lawyers every day who are agreeing to resentencings on some of those cases that would be a more fair disposition of the case. So I think that you have to understand that in the DA's office, Alameda County is not perfect. We do need new leadership. We need to reset our priorities. But we've also been in office that has tried to be a leader in many areas. That's why we have 17 alternatives to incarceration courts, that we're working with the courts every day.
Thank you.
And then
Your
last
time
thing I
is
want to
up.
say.
Nope, your
Okay.
time is up, Terry.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And so now I'm going to pass it to Pamela. Don't start yet. Your clock, the timer. Let's get it right this time. There you go. Go ahead and start.
Sure. I have a 10-point platform, and in our first point, number 1, which we published in, I believe, December of 2020, it includes a commitment to create a conviction integrity unit to look back at the harm that has been caused by this district attorney's office, to look at convictions that have been based on unfair prosecutions, biased prosecutions, excessive sentencing, with a special focus on racially biased prosecutions, and to take remedial steps where they're warranted. I took a commitment, made a commitment early in this race that I would in fact do 1170D resentencing petitions and be aggressive about it. It is true that the district attorney's office does have an 1170D unit, but they are not aggressive. San Francisco is doing a much better job than we are, and we can do much better. And they don't look at convictions which are current, where the Court of Appeal has overturned the conviction. The Public Defender's Office filed a motion to recuse the entire DA's office and cited a whole list of cases where the DA's office had engaged in prosecutorial misconduct, and the Conviction Integrity Unit is not looking at those cases. You mentioned all of those great criminal justice reform measures, and one of them that I'm familiar with is SB 369, which the governor unfortunately vetoed, but it's a reentry commission where we will look at the barriers to reentry and provide grants to reentry service providers. I am endorsed in this race for a reason by Dorsey Nunn, the founder of All of Us or None, and Susan Burton, a leader in establishing reentry services for women and being an advocate. That has been my life's journey. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to remind the candidates that as you're responding, to help us maintain the civility of this process, that you try to stick to answering the question from your point of view, and not really go after the other candidates and their positions. It would be helpful for our audience to really hear where you're coming from, and not really about taking down other candidates. This is the type of forum that we're trying to maintain, and we respectfully ask you to stick to your platform and where are you coming from. So I will pass it to Vero to ask the next set of questions.
Thank you, Liz. And this will be our last short answer question, and the order will follow as so. Seth Stewart, Terry Wiley, Pamela Price, and Jimmy Wilson. And the question is, the district attorney has the ability to petition the courts in order to transfer youth into the adult criminal legal system. Is this a practice that you would engage in if you were elected to the district attorney's office? Or alternatively, is this a practice you would end? Why or why not? And we will begin with Seth Stewart.
All right. So I would develop and implement a policy to no longer charge children as adults. Juvenile justice is changing here in California, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Last year, the Supreme Court upheld Senate Bill 1391, banning 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds from being transferred to adult court. And that's exactly the kind of thing that we need to stop. This policy matters because historically and today, we treat Black kids and brown kids differently than other kids. Again, the numbers are just astounding. This also affects in particular immigrants because they are vulnerable communities. The Asian Prisoner Support Committee has done a great job in trying to fight and address this issue. I also want to say, in terms of this issue, there may be exceptions, but it'd be very difficult to go against this policy. And the policy is to no longer charge children as adults. In addition to that, we also need to make sure that we support people on the front end through educational opportunities, through organizations like Youth Alive, Youth Uprising, and a holistic wraparound services that support our children to be able to become successful adults. We need to invest in place-based investments in where historically we have failed. And these are the places that we need to put our money to be able to make sure that we, instead of having to deal with a number of victims and a number of defendants that we have now, we support people in the front end to stop this process and stop the school to prison pipeline. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And we will now pass it on to Terry Wiley.
To have just a strict policy that we would not file as an adult. Here's what we're doing in the district attorney's office. When I took over in 2013, there was direct filing going on prior to my arrival. And what stopped once I got there was direct filing of juveniles to adult. And in the 4-year period that I ran our juvenile division, there were only 2 kids that were direct filed on. One was 17 years and 8 months, who had a serious prior record. And the crime in which he was charged with, he walked up to an elderly person at an ATM, pulled out a gun and shot him in the face and robbed him. And I thought that that went over the line. The second one was a juvenile that lit another kid on fire while he was sleeping on the AC Transit bus. And the only reason that kid got filed on as an adult is because the juvenile said that they could not provide services for the juvenile. And the case itself was just so outrageous. Other than that, there were no kids. But I think the reason they changed the law in California is because the direct files by district attorneys' offices were being abused. And that's why you can no longer do a direct file. And in order to file against an adult, in order to send a juvenile to adult today, that has to be a judicial system, which was the old system. And they went back to the old system. And so the DA's office no longer has the sole discretion to send a juvenile to adult on their own. And I agree with that policy. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will now pass it on to Pamela Price.
I definitely would oppose and have opposed the ability of the district attorney's office to transfer youth into adult court. Point number 4 of our 10-point platform, again, which we published in, I believe, December of 2020, clearly says that we will not charge juveniles as adults. We also will establish age-appropriate systems or programs for juveniles, young people between the ages of 18 and 25. Brian Stevenson says, none of us want to be judged by the worst thing we've ever done in our lives, in just mercy. I am a survivor of the Ohio juvenile justice system, so I know how juveniles can be abused and the experiences that will shape you and scar you and destroy you if you let them. I will immediately direct all of the Alameda County deputies to identify all cases where the DA's office has charged or incarcerated a youth under the age of 18 as an adult. And that includes, again, looking back to see where we've done it and review them for alternative dispositions or commuting the resentencing. And I will impose a prohibition against charging juveniles as adults in my office. Between 2010 and 2016 in Alameda County, a Black child was 65 times more likely to be charged as an adult than a white child, and a Latino child was 27 times more likely to be charged as an adult than a white child. In 2014, Alameda County was one of only 9 counties in the whole state of California where the only kids charged as adults were Black or brown children. We have a horrible record in this county. We have a lot of work to do to clean it up. Starting from day one, I will work on that. It will be one of the priorities because it is something that for me is at the heart of what we call justice with compassion. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final responder will be Jimmy Wilson.
Thank you. I want to pull back the curtain on what's been going on in Alameda County. First of all, I want to say that there is not an absolute rule for me that I would never charge a juvenile as an adult, but it would be rare. It would have to be one of those rare cases. What I can tell you is that I would stop the practices of using sentencing enhancements against juveniles. I think that is wrong. I think it's archaic. I think it goes against the science, the things that we know about the juvenile brain. What I want to talk about a little bit more is about what was going on in my office. Prop 57 was enacted in 2016. Just prior to that, the Alameda County District Attorney Office had a pattern of direct filing kids into adult court. In fact, I know for a fact that's true because in the last 2 years, I had to do 4 transfer hearings of juvenile offenders that took place between 2015, 2016. Now, telling you that it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who's aware of what the practices of our office. That was the norm in our juvenile justice system for a very long time. It took our state legislatures to pass Prop 57 in order to cease that practice. So when we hear someone say that we never direct filed juveniles into the system and that there were only 2 cases, that is absolutely not true, because I've dealt with at least 4 of them myself. And I know I'm not the only person in that office who's had to deal with it. So as I said, I would do juvenile justice differently, and it would be a rare case that I would charge a juvenile as an adult. Thank you.
Again, all of the buttons. Okay, so if we were on stage, this would run probably a lot smoother, y'all. I am gonna spotlight myself. So thank you all for that round of questions. We, I believe, we are gonna now move on to lightning round. Exciting. So these questions are really yes, no questions, but you do have 30 seconds to respond to those questions. And we have all of us on the screen together. Let me make sure I have the right slide so that we are here, so that we have 30 seconds to respond. And I will again, we will read the question. There will be an order by which the candidates will respond. You'll have 30 seconds to respond. And again, because there are some technical things like this clock on a screen, I will have to probably take a little pause in between answering to give the, to reset the clock and things like that. So just be patient with us. Remember again, I know 30 seconds isn't a lot of time for you to go after each other's throats. Please make sure that you're keeping to your platform. And that's what the folks really want to hear is they want to hear where you're coming from. And our young people and our communities, that's what they're looking for. So the first question, the order of the candidates responding will be Terry Wiley, Pamela Price, Jimmy Wilson, and then Seth Stewart. Again, this is a yes, no question. You have 30 seconds to respond. The first question is, Governor Newsom has put a moratorium on the death penalty. However, people can still be convicted to life without parole and the death sentence. Will you commit the DA's office to a moratorium on seeking life without parole or death penalty in all cases? And
I stated at the beginning of my campaign that I oppose the death penalty, and we will not seek the death penalty in any case when I'm the district attorney of Alameda County, if I should have the honor of serving as a district attorney of Alameda County.
Thank you. I will pass this to Pamela next. Your response, Pamela?
Yes, our 10-point platform includes a commitment that I will not charge cases with the death penalty, and I will not seek life without the possibility of parole. My vision is to stop using racial bias as an incarceration tool. Sorry.
Thank you. And now we'll pass it over to Jimmy Wilson.
I absolutely will never seek the death penalty in any case. That goes against my moral principles, also my scientific understanding of when the death penalty is applied, and that is applied mostly against Black, brown, and poor people. So I will not seek the death penalty.
And lastly, Seth.
I commit to ending the death penalty in Alameda County in all cases. It's abominable that a disproportionate amount of people sent to death row are Black and brown. We know that the criminal justice system is unfair and treats people unfairly based on race. We need to fight this racism bias in the system.
Thank you. So the next question that we have for all the candidates, I'll be reading after I let you know your order. So the first person to answer this question will be Pamela, and then we'll go to Jimmy, Seth, and then Terry. The question is, in 2019, 73% of arrests were for low-level and misdemeanor offenses. Will you commit to addressing this pattern by establishing a decline in charge policy to end prosecution of misdemeanors and low-level offenses? Pamela?
Yes, I will commit to have that policy. We spend far too much of our resources on misdemeanors and low-level offenses and not enough dealing with serious violent crime. That has to change.
Thank you. And we will pass it to Jimmy.
Yes, I make a commitment to change the policy of how we arrest and who we prosecute for low-level offenses. What I'd like to do is give police the opportunity to just cite people out and to handle cases in that way if there's no danger to a victim, such as in a domestic violence case or in a minor molestation case or something where there would be some kind of danger to a victim.
And let me set the clock up, but now Seth.
We need to take a holistic approach to recognizing when alternative courts and diversion are the best. We need to stop the pipeline to prison based on low-level offenses because people get tacked with one and then two, and then the system goes after folks. And we need to stop that from happening. We need to expand access to alternative courts and diversion and support organizations that do the hard work of giving people the services that they need to be successful.
And lastly, Terry Wiley.
I do agree with Seth on that. I think that what the public has to understand, though, we have individuals that are coming in with mental health issues. They're coming in with substance abuse issues. And there are some people who are having issues that are generated by poverty. And there are cases where you cannot get jurisdiction over the individual to even put them in a program without some form of an arrest or a charge. So there are some cases that
your time is
okay.
up. Thank you. And the next question for this lightning round, and the order of the question to be answered will be Jimmy Wilson, Seth Stewart, Terry Wiley, and then Pamela Price. And the question is, California has the most extensive list and use of sentence enhancement. Will you commit to ending sentence enhancement through a policy, such as eliminating 3 strikes and other enhancements? So I'll pass it to Jimmy first.
Thank you. I will commit to revamping the way that we use sentence enhancements, especially when it's unwarranted. What I see now is that we overuse sentence enhancements and especially when we use them on juveniles and people who are first-time offenders. I will not make a specific pledge not to use them, but I will not use them as much as they've been used right now.
Thank you. The next will be Seth. Give me just 1 second to reset. Okay, go ahead.
Felony enhancements historically have been used to send non-violent drug offenders away for long sentences that are disproportional to their conviction. We need to fight to end these practices. Thank you, Ella Baker Center, for the RISE Act. I will say that felony hate crimes is an enhancement, and so I will continue to prosecute those charges. But as a general rule, we need to make sure we fight to reduce drug sentencing enhancements and other enhancements that do nothing to improve public safety.
Great. And I will pass it to Terry Wiley. Give me a second to reset. And
In my campaign, we announced that we were going to do a comprehensive review of all enhancements and how they've been used in the past and how, if any, would be used in the future. But as a general rule, I'm against using enhancement to gain leverage on possible disposition of a case. So you would see much fewer enhancements being utilized, if any at all, under my administration.
thank you. And the last will be Pamela Price. Give me 1 second, Pamela, while I set up. And here you go.
Enhancements have been shown to be the primary driver of mass incarceration and to be applied 3 times more often to African-American defendants than other people in the system. And so my policy will be to eliminate most enhancements whenever possible. I've seen them consistently used as a tool to coerce plea bargains. And so they will only, if a deputy wants to use an enhancement, he will have to clearly explain why.
Time's up. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it to Vero. She's going to take on the next 3 questions.
Thank you, Liz. And the next questions order will follow as so. Seth Stewart, Terry Wiley, Pamela Price, and Jimmy Wilson. And the question is, there are over 44% of people incarcerated in Santa Rita with a diagnosed mental illness. Will you commit to taking the necessary steps to ensure that mental health diversion programs are expanded and made accessible to people instead of being prosecuted? And I'll pass it to Seth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to expand access to behavioral health court at the time of charging and throughout the criminal justice process. We need wraparound services for mental health diversion programs, and we need to address the needs of the mental health of the folks in Santa Rita Jail as required by consent decree and the Constitution of the United States. We need to expand the programs that deal with mental health in Pleasanton, Hayward, and Oakland to the entire county, and I look forward to making that happen.
Thank you. Next, we have Terry Wiley.
And as I stated earlier, we currently have the CARES program. And in fact, the CARES program has been so successful that we have law enforcement agencies that are lining up to get training from our office on how to utilize the CARES program. The Board of Supervisors was so impressed with it. They're seeking to approve $3 million in additional funding so we can take CARES to the south part of the county and to the east part of the county. So we are trying to expand alternatives with people suffering mental illness.
Thank you, Terry.
Keeping
Your
them
time
out
is
of the
now
system.
up. Thank you. And our next responder will be Pamela Price.
I look forward to leveraging the opportunity of the Department of Justice threatening Alameda County for its failure to address mental health services and providing alternatives to incarceration. I will be working and have been working with the families of the seriously mentally ill, and I'm fully committed to stop prosecuting and incarcerating people because of their mental health challenges. Mental illness is not a crime, and it should not be a death sentence in Alameda County.
Thank you, Pamela. And our final responder will be Jimmy Wilson.
I agree with Ms. Price. Mental health is not a crime. I believe that we need to expand mental health services far beyond what we're doing right now. There are jurisdictions in other states where they have done that and it's been really successful. And Alameda County is behind the times. So when I become DA, I'm going to push to expand mental health services within our county so we can give people the help that they really truly need.
Thank you. And our next question order will follow as so. Terry Wiley, Pamela Price, Jimmy Wilson, and Seth Stewart. And the question is, community-based organizations and service providers in Alameda County are key stakeholders and often work with families and loved ones of people incarcerated. Will you commit to holding monthly meetings with key stakeholders, such as meetings with groups within the Justice Reinvestment Coalition? And I'll pass it to Terry.
Yes, we do that now. Uh, I believe the Urban Peace Movement meets with Ms. O'Malley every month, and we discuss the issues that they are concerned with, and we try to resolve as many issues as we can by working together and communicating, and we'll continue to do that. And let me just say this, that the community-based organizations in Alameda County are some of the most robust organizations that we have anywhere in the Bay Area. And so they are a complete asset to the work that we do in this criminal justice system.
Thank you, Terry. And our next responder is Pamela Price.
Yes.
Before I begin the clock, Pamela, I want to give you your full time. I just want to request, Terry, that you please stick to the time. You have gone over the time several times. Thank you.
Right.
Am I starting now?
Let me reset the clock.
Okay,
You have your
sorry.
full time, Pamela.
Thank you.
Here we go. Go ahead.
All right. Yes, I commit to meet with the Justice Reinvestment Coalition and to do more than just pay lip service to say I'm meeting with you. I actually will take your ideas and your concerns seriously. I expect this community to hold me accountable when I become the next district attorney of Alameda County. And I appreciate that, yes, we do have many wonderful community advocates. And that is why, the only reason why we're able to have any kind of justice in this system. So thank you.
Pamela. And our next responder is Jimmy Wilson.
I am committed to a community-based criminal justice system. That means that I will meet with community organizations to talk to them, to figure out their concerns and to address those during my administration. I believe that currently the district attorney's office is detached from our community and that we need to do more. And I'm making a commitment. I've made a commitment in my platform that I will build a community-based criminal justice system that takes everyone's advice into account.
Thank you, Jimmy. And our final responder is Seth Stewart.
Absolutely. I look forward to having these community meetings to help shape the criminal justice policy of the district attorney's office. The organizations that are part of the Justice Reinvestment Coalition have done an incredible job of changing criminal justice, not only here in the Bay Area and the state of California, but also the whole country. And we want to continue to lead the effort in changing the way we do criminal justice. Absolutely, I look forward to it. Actually, if I know I'm not supposed to put my email in the chat, but maybe I'll do it later and would love to continue to have that conversation.
Thank you. And our next questions order will follow as so. Pamela Price, Jimmy Wilson, Seth Stewart, and Terry Wiley. And the question is, alternative courts are one diversion the county can use instead of using incarceration. Will you commit to expanding capacity and eligibility for alternative courts? Pamela?
Yes, I am definitely committed to that. I met with the East Bay Community Law Center back in 2018 to talk about how these courts are operating. I appreciate the report that has done to shine a light on the fact that they're not being effectively used. So yes, we want to expand the use of alternative courts, the eligibility therefore, and create a network of community courts that allows us to hold low-level offenders accountable to the community that the offense occurs.
Thank you, Pamela.
Of course.
And next I will pass it to Jimmy.
Yes, I'm making a commitment that I will expand eligibility to alternative courts. I believe that we need to widen the criteria to take other crimes into account. Sometimes we will find that if we get people on the front end and that we give them services and we try to get them out of the system, that will be a form of public safety. So I am totally committed to expanding the use of those courts. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we will have Seth Stewart.
Unequivocally, yes. This is a central part of my platform. Alternative courts have better outcomes than traditional courts because they lower the recidivism rate. Definitely, we need to do it in both the traditional system and we also need to do it in the youth system. We need as many different alternative courts, neighborhood courts, community courts, veterans court, drug court, behavioral health court, all the courts that I've worked in. I want to make sure to bring those here to Alameda County and make sure we expand them and the access. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final responder will be Terry Wiley.
Yes, well, we already have behavioral health. We have Veterans Court. We have drug courts in both the East County and the North County. We have 17 different alternative courts. But one thing you have to understand is that these courts many times are voluntary. And you have the option of taking advantage of the court. And there are many times that they're advised by the public defender not to take advantage of them because the law changed and in many of these misdemeanor offenses, the probation is only for 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you all for those that amazing round, lightning round for that. And I think sort of starting off a little slow with them and then really getting all of your points in as the time went on. We're now going to move on to the next set of questions. And these questions are actually from our audience. And want to make sure that I have this right. Okay, timer is right. It says 4, but it's just stuck on an image just for your FYI. And we had a bunch of questions from the audience. Y'all were really active today and really appreciate it. I'm sure as the candidates look at the questions and the lists of questions in the Q&A, you can see that so many of our community is so involved in really trying to figure out how we do this here in Alameda County. And really want to thank the audience for coming. We've had at points 175 people here. We are also live streaming this. And so we know that there are many more folks who are watching and listening to your responses and thinking about the choices that they will make on the ballot in June. So we've gone through some of these questions. We don't have a whole lot of time, as you all can see. And so we went through some of the questions and we are going to actually, if this was in person, you know how this would work. We would like bring them up, give them a mic. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna ask a few folks, we've invited them up to be a panelist so that they can ask the question themselves. And we're gonna start with Amy Kimmel. And the order, I'm sorry, Amy, let me make sure I let the folks know the order of who's going to respond, but I have to find the order. Just give me 1 second. So the order of the respondents for this round, for this question will be Jimmy, Seth, Terry, and Pamela. You will have 1 minute to respond. Go ahead, Amy, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Data shows over and over that Black and Brown communities bear the brunt of the devastation caused by mass incarceration. For example, here in Alameda County, Black and Brown people make up 2/3 of the incarcerated population, and the same is true of youth in the county's juvenile justice system. What measures will you take if you are elected to reverse the impacts of white supremacy and patriarchy that have been carried out by policing and the prosecution of community members?
So we will begin with Jimmy Wilson. You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, I think that some of the problems that we see with mass incarceration has to do with whoever is in office, the policies that are in place. It is my plan to implement policies with that in mind, with like training for DAs on how to charge cases, on when we sentence people, on when we make offers. I believe that what's going on right now is a part of that old school network of how we try to incarcerate our way to public safety. We know that doesn't work. We need to have alternative courts. We need to have alternatives to incarceration. We need to push people out of the system, offer more diversion, do more pre-plea diversion, offer people services so they don't get caught up in the system. I believe that we need to have a DA, and I am that DA, that has a forward-thinking mind, that's aware of what we've been doing in the past and wants to reverse those trends. And those are my plans when I take over the office.
Thank you. And now we're going to go to Seth. And and just for all fairness, this clock for some reason gives a countdown to the start of the clock. And in all fairness, I'm going to just start with that. So you technically have 64 seconds, you all. So I will pass it to Seth.
All right, well, we absolutely need to end mass incarceration. Right off the bat, there's 3 things that I would do as DA. We need to fight racism and bias. To do that, we need to come up with data, and we need to follow the science to determine whether or not the policies of the DA's office are either A, increasing, exacerbating racial disparities, or limiting them. The policies that are exacerbating racial disparities, we need to end those immediately. And the ones that are narrowing racial disparities, we need to increase those. And we need to be able to make sure we know what those are and produce that data to the public. So that's both number 1 and number 2 with regard to data and fighting racism and bias. Number 3, we need to lead outside of the courtroom. We have to start before people even get into the criminal justice system. We need to have place-based investments because we know that we invest in communities historically that have been disenfranchised, crime goes down. We know that if high school graduation rate goes up, crime goes down. That's where we need to put our money. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me make sure I'm doing the right order. So the next person is Terry. Wait, don't start. Wait, give me a second. Let me start the clock again. Okay, there you go.
All right. Well, there are several things that we can do, but there's a reason why the civil rights community and the leading civil rights attorneys have come in behind my candidacy, because I have a history of trying to balance our criminal justice system. I'm currently the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the District Attorney's Office. And before I took that position, no one was required to do implicit bias training. Today, not only do the attorneys have to do implicit bias training, our administrative staff and our inspectors have to do implicit bias training. One of the modules that every employee has to go through is we teach them about the policy of redlining and how the areas of West Oakland and East Oakland were redlined in the 1930s. And the development of those areas was limited because of the redlining policies and how those impacted schools and those areas. And so that today, those are still the areas that are struggling socially and economically. And that's simply because cases come out of East Oakland and West Oakland, that there's a lot of government policies.
Thank you. Time's up.
That contributed to those areas
Time is
being
up.
the way they
Thank you,
are.
Terry. I'm going to pass it now to Pamela. Give me just 1 second to reset and go ahead.
We not only have to change the policies in the DA's office to address white supremacy and the racist practices that have been visited upon this community. And to change those practices, you may have to change the people who are engaging in the practice. You have to hold them accountable. You cannot allow deputies to thrive just based on the number of convictions that they get or the number of years that they're able to secure for a sentence or the number of people that they are incarcerating pre-trial. We've got to change the culture within the district attorney's office and hold them accountable for that. We've got to stop letting people think that it's okay to send Black and brown people away and immigrant people who come here looking for a better life, to put them in situations in a cage and hold them there for as long as possible. So I want to hire prosecutors who want to change lives and not ruin them. And that will in fact require doing battle with the court system, the entire court system.
Thank you. And just making sure. And now I'm going to pass it to Jimmy. Is that right? Yes. No, that's it. That was the round. Just making sure, y'all. I don't want to give anybody extra time. So I'm going to actually pass it to Kathy Kojimoto, who's going to ask the next question. And the order of response for this will be Seth, Terry, Pamela, and Jimmy. Seth, Terry, Pamela, and Jimmy. And because we said we would do this at, we would start at, we would give you all a minute. I'm going to start exactly at the minute mark on our counter again. So Kathy, do you want to go ahead and give us your question?
In Alameda County, and actually in California, there's a high percentage of immigrants who unfortunately, when they were young, were incarcerated and have shown to be deemed eligible for parole. But unfortunately, in this last several years, many of those who have been deemed eligible for parole, once they are released from jail or prison, like San Quentin, are immediately handed over to ICE. What alternatives would you do to stop that pipeline from prison to ICE? And also the dismantling of private ICE facilities.
Thank you, Kathy. So we will again start with Seth Stewart.
I think that the first thing we need to do, this is a two-part answer, what we're going to do in the DA's office and what we're going to do outside of the DA's office. In the DA's office, what we need to do is not work with ICE. We need to make sure that Alameda County is a sanctuary county, not just with sanctuary cities. And when I'm the DA, that's exactly what's going to happen. We need to make sure we protect the rights of immigrants. And the DA's office right now does this, but we also need to do a step further. What they currently do is make sure that there's an the immigration consequences are taken into account, and they have to, and that just started 2 years ago, and we need to continue to do that. So that's the inside the DA's office stuff. The outside the DA's office stuff, we need to act and use the pulpit and the microphone of the DA's office to make sure that we fight to end these prisons, these private ICE prisons that are happening all over the country and in the state of California. We need to make sure that we stop this connection between prison and ICE and make sure that people stop this type of process. Thank you.
And now I'm going to pass it to Terry, but let me set up the clock. Give me just 1 second. Will it take us to 60 seconds? And let me not. All right, there we go.
Thank you for that question. You know, currently in the district attorney's office, all of our lawyers are required to go through training regarding immigration consequences. So immigration consequences are considered regardless of whether it's a misdemeanor or felony case. Our DAs are always considering the immigration consequences. And in terms of what we do, what the state does, we don't have we don't have jurisdiction over state action when whatever the state prisons are doing in terms of their relationship with ICE. And the only thing we can do is have a policy that we are not going to cooperate with ICE, and from my perspective of the district attorney's office.
Thank you. And just a request, Kathy, from our audience, if you wouldn't mind posting to everyone the question so that folks who may have missed the question can see it in the chat. So I'm gonna now pass it to Pamela, but give me just 1 second, Pamela. Okay, we're ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you. As the district attorney of Alameda County, I believe that I have a responsibility to those who are incarcerated from our county when they want to come home, to be an advocate for them to be able to do that, which means that as a district attorney, I can in fact intervene when I'm aware that someone from our county who we incarcerated is going to be released and they are in danger because of their immigration status, or because perhaps of some prosecution that we in fact did that put them at risk of being deported. Then we can intervene, we can expand, be in partnership with organizations like Centro de Legal or my organization, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. We have a robust immigration defense unit, and we can expand our criteria and our ability to protect the residents of Alameda County wherever they are.
Thank you. And the last person to answer this question is Jimmy. Give me 1 second while I set us up. There we go. Okay, go ahead, Jimmy.
Under my administration, we absolutely will not cooperate with Homeland Security, or what other people call ICE. We are not the agents of the federal government. I believe that wholeheartedly. Secondly, there currently isn't training in the district attorney's office considering whether or not we make immigration safe dispositions. We are told that we have the ability to do that, but there's no training on when to do it. And when I become DA, it is my plan to actually offer training to our DAs in consulting with an immigration attorney when and how to make immigration safe dispositions. That is currently not being done, and under my administration, we will certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we are at the end of our audience question and answer. We really appreciate the tremendous amount of questions that came in, not only on the Q&A box, but also in the chat. And now, in order for us to ensure that we aren't going too much over our time, we want to be able to give everybody an opportunity, our candidates, to do a closing statement, and then we want to properly say goodbye to folks. Don't want to eat too much into the rest of your time. And I believe you all have a minute to answer your closing remarks. Am I correct on that?
2 minutes, Liz.
2 minutes, thank you. I need to go back to the right clock, so let me set that up. But the order of this then will be, we will start, sorry. Let me make sure I get this right. We'll start with Terry, we'll go to Pamela and Jimmy, and then Seth. Okay?
2 minutes.
Yes, give me just a second while I set myself up for that clock though. There we go. And let me start that over so you get your full 2 minutes. And we will, again, Terry, Pamela, Jimmy, and Seth. And stay for the closing though, you all. Don't leave. Let's give it to Terry. Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for having us again. This has been a great discussion. You know, my campaign is about safety and justice. You know, what has woefully been missing from this conversation is the fact that, you know, we are currently in a state where the level of violence with weapons and shootings and murders are off the charts. Between March 17th and March 20th, we had 3 homicides and there were 90 shot fires that went off in one particular area of the city. So you have to deal with the safety of the city, and you've got to have a game plan. But you also have to be about justice. You have to acknowledge that there was a lot of mass incarcerating going on, and you have to have policies that drill down on poverty, substance abuse, mental illness, and find solutions to deal with these populations that are coming through the criminal justice system, and find alternatives to simply incarcerating them. But at the same time, you have to bring balance. You have to bring independence from law enforcement and be able to judge the system independently from everyone in a balanced way. And I'm the person to do it. I have 32 years experience in the district attorney's office. We have a $100 million budget that you have to manage. You have to be able to manage the criminal division, the consumer and environmental protection division. There are a number of areas of the office that have to be managed, and it's not just the criminal division. There's more to the job than simply the criminal division. I'm the person with the experience. I've run every division in the district attorney's office with the exception of our consumer and environmental protection division. I bring the experience, I bring the balance, and I bring the independence.
Thank you. And our next responder is Pamela.
First, I want to thank the organizers of this event for creating this space for the community to hear us and for honoring the legacy of Prince White. I loved him too. Alameda County is at a crossroads. And the question is, do we step forward in 2022, or do we continue to invest in a fear-based system of incarceration and failed leadership? Alameda County is one of the largest counties in this country, so what we do here matters. This county is desperate for police accountability. Until last year, the only in-custody death case ever prosecuted in this county was the Oscar Grant case. It was flawed from the beginning because the DA's heart was not in it. The Ryder's case was lost because the DA's heart was not in it. We need a DA that will embrace police accountability, that will engage with the community and provide and embrace strategies proven to reduce gun violence without relying on racially biased prosecutions. We need a DA that knows that public safety requires public trust. I have 30 years experience solving problems for people in this community. I've been honored by the California State Legislature as a champion of justice, a social justice advocate, and Woman of the Year for Assembly District 18. I have 3 certificates of special congressional recognition from Congresswoman Barbara Lee. I'm the only progressive, corporate-free, grassroots candidate in this race who has been in this county for 40 years. Only with better leadership are great things possible. How can you expect someone who has participated, profited, and prospered in a broken system to fix it? We are working toward a future that prioritizes public safety, harm reduction, and redemption. We need your help. Voting begins in 47 days. Please go to PamelaPriceForDA.com, the number 4 to volunteer or donate. Let's step forward in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we will pass it on to Jimmy Wilson.
Yes, I believe safety is a civil right. That means you have the right to feel safe in your homes and when you're out in your community. I told you from the beginning of my opening statement that I walked into Nancy O'Malley's office and told her I was running for DA. I am not her choice. I am not a member of the old guard. I refuse to accept the status quo. I am not a 30-year prosecutor who is claiming that I'm either progressive or moderate. I am not an extension of what has been going on in our community for far too long. Alameda County is my home. I moved here 36 years ago. My wife and I raised our 3 kids here. They went to public schools here. When I came into this office, I had an idea of what justice was supposed to look like. And I was surprised by how bad it looked and how devastating it was for my community. I believe that the criminal justice system is broken, and I'm here to fix it. We need change, and ladies and gentlemen, we need it now. We need new leadership and a different direction. I'm here to lead you on that path. I grew up in San Francisco, Bayview, Hunters Point. It was a tough neighborhood. A lot of poverty, a lot of guns, a lot of gang violence. I know what it feels like to experience violence in your community. I know people in the flatlands want the same kind of justice as people in the hills. I know that people want us to feel safe. We don't want less police, we want better police. We don't want less accountability, we want more accountability. We don't want less justice, we want equal justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the person to lead us on that path. I'm endorsed by police departments not because of who I am as a person, but how I do my job. The fact that I'm out there training police to do community policing, to get out of
Thank you,
that.
Jimmy. And now we will pass it on to Seth Stewart.
Thank you so much for having us here tonight. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done to make these changes possible, even have this conversation. This is a historical moment. We have an opportunity to shift where Alameda County is going from where it's been. With this value shift is critical. We need to fight for our progressive values. We need to make sure we believe in service, excellence, and fairness. And we need to have policy changes. The policy changes that we've outlined above, including additional policy changes, prosecuting officers who violate the law, leading outside the courtroom by working with the Alameda Board of Education, making sure we end qualified immunity here in the state of California. Those are the things that I fight for. Those are the things that I stand for. Change happens on the ground. I've done the work, prosecuting violent cases, collaborating with defense attorneys and alternative courts, writing laws about the criminal justice system, banning chokeholds and carotid restraints, and banning ghost guns, teaching young people at Oakland Tech. I'm the only prosecutor who's worked under both Kamala Harris and George Gascon. Let us join together to make change in Alameda County. Let us change the status quo. Let us change what's happening here. Let's make a difference in where we live, in our communities, in the criminal justice system, right here and right now. My name is Seth Stewart. I am asking for your vote. The election is June 7th. You can vote, ballots will be mailed out before then. Please vote and vote early. Please go to sethstewartforda.com for additional information. I humbly ask you for your vote. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And now we're gonna pass it to Sandy to close us out for the evening.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Beto. We would like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. We hope you learned a lot during today's event. We thank the candidates for joining us, and a special thanks to the planning team for making today's event possible. We would like to invite you to follow our Know Your DA month through our UPM and JRC social media accounts. And remember to stay informed about the key election dates. In the chat, we are dropping a form for people who would like to stay engaged with our DA accountability work. I hope that you all have a great evening, and remember that safety of one another depends on each other. Thank you everyone for joining, and we hope you have a great evening. And I'm dropping the link here in the chat. Thank you everyone so much.